o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started to respect everyone's time. Before I get started with introductions, Nate and or Adam, are you guys able to see and admit to the lobby?
I should be able to.
Okay, I'm going to start, so if y'all could take care of the lobby if possible, that would be great. But welcome everyone to our fiscal year 2023, Charter Facilities Grant webinar. I am Serena Sales. I'm the Director of Charter Schools here in the Division of Choice at the department. As with all of the work that we do at our department, we like to ground ourselves in the best for all mission for the state of Tennessee. Excuse me, setting all students on a path to success. This webinar is about the Charter Facilities Grant, which supports our student readiness priority, ensuring that students in Tennessee public charter schools have the best learning environments possible. All right, so here's our agenda for today. First, we'll have just a general grant overview for this 2023 cycle. Then we're going to cover the application format. We'll briefly cover the application review process, and then we'll have time for questions. With that said, there's going to be a dedicated slide between each of these sections for questions. So I encourage you, I'm going to pack a lot of information in our time together. Please feel free to shoot any questions that you have as we go into the chat. And then we will either address them if we think it's something that, we need to say audibly. I'll say it audibly at that question slide, or we'll try to take care of it in response in the chat. But there will be time for us to do that between each section. Okay. So for our icebreaker in the chat box, please enter the following: your name, your organization, and either expansion, need-based, per pupil only, or unsure. So you'll type expansion with your name and organization if you're planning on submitting the competitive application for high-quality expansion charter facilities. Type need-based if your organization is planning on submitting the competitive application for need-based charter facility funds. If you're not planning to apply for any competitive funds and you're just here for information about per pupil, please write per pupil only. And if you're unsure which one you qualify for or what you're interested in, just type unsure at this time. I'll give us a little bit more time here. I know we have a lot of people that just joined. So in the chat box, please enter the following that you see on the screen. And also for those of you that have just recently joined, this webinar is being recorded and transcribed. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of unsures, and I actually, that makes me happy because that means you're going to get a lot of information that maybe you don't already have in today's webinar. If everyone could mute, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, we're going to move forward. So now we'll start with the grant overview. In 2017, the Tennessee legislature established a public charter school facilities program, pursuant to which state funds are allocated annually to charter schools to assist them with acquiring and improving their facilities. As outlined in the statute that you see on the screen, 49-13-144, awarded funds may be used for the purchase or lease of property, general capital improvements to existing and available buildings, and or the repayment of debt incurred for existing capital outlay projects. About this year's grant in particular, this year's grant is a sum total of $38 million available for 2023. This grant will be managed through our grant software ePlan and includes two main parts. We have $12 million that we've set aside for per pupil allocations, and the remaining $26 million we've set aside for competitive grant funds. To help you understand the components of this grant, we have this overall bucket here, all of the 2023 facility funds grants. That total is divided into the two allocations we discussed earlier. First, the per pupil allocation. $12 million will be allocated on a per pupil basis to every Tennessee charter school that is open and operating in school year 22-23. Funds will be distributed equitably by using October 1 enrollment data. Every school must submit a budget in ePlan for this allocation in order to receive reimbursements. The second major allocation is the competitive grant funds. There's $26 million allocated for a competitive basis. There are two competitive categories. There's two competitive categories, expansion and need-based. We'll talk about those in a second. For the per pupil allocation, we use, as I said, the October 1 enrollment data to determine your per pupil rate. We will divide the $12 million equally to all schools currently in operation based on their enrollment. Those allocations will be uploaded in ePlan after January 1st. You must submit your budget for approval by February 1st, 2023. And you must spend all per pupil funds by June 30th, 2023. For step-by-step guidance on how to use ePlan to access these funds, please attend our ePlan webinar to be rescheduled by Adam Holdren soon. I want to make a note here. If you do not have your current cohort 22 facilities applications appropriately carried over to fiscal year 23 in ePlan, you will be unable to receive cohort 23 facilities funds. So please reach out to Adam Holdren if you need support in carrying over 22 funds to fiscal year 23. All right, now we're going to talk about use of funds. Funds may be used for the purpose of purchasing real property upon which to build school facilities, permanent school facilities, or relocatable school facilities such as portables. Funds may be used for any costs associated with the purchase of underutilized or vacant property available pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated 49-13-136. Funds may also be used for lease or mortgage payments. Funds may be used for the service of debt incurred for existing capital outlay projects or for the reimbursement for renovations and future capital outlay projects. Requirements for capital outlay projects. The charter school must own the facility, be in the process of purchasing the facility, have a long-term lease, or have a memorandum of understanding with its authorizer. Basically, you need to have permission to do these things to the building that you're doing them to. The proposed facilities activities must be necessary to ensure the health and safety or safety of all students, or to ensure an academic environment conducive to learning. Those are the parameters for how those funds can be spent. So now that we've covered the details of the per pupil allotments, now we're going to discuss the competitive portion of the grant funds. As I've stated, there's $26 million in competitive grants for fiscal year 23. Schools may request up to $700,000 per application this year. Each school may apply to only one of the two types of competitive grants. Either the need-based or the competitive. The need-based or the expansion. For the expansion, there are two types of grants. If you choose to apply for the high quality expansion grant, eligible applicants include either A, the sponsor of a new charter school that has been approved by an LEA or the commission, but is not yet open, or the operator of an existing charter school that has received its authorizer's approval to expand enrollment or grade levels beyond what is set forth in your original charter agreement. What is key here for the high quality charter expansion grant competitive award is that the applicant must provide a clear record of driving student achievement and outcomes on state assessments. This is a key component of our definition of high quality charter schools and charter seats. All right, so here's our pop quiz. Can a charter school that is currently operating but has not yet fully grown apply for a facilities expansion grant if they still have grade levels to add in the next year? Go ahead and pop your answer to this quiz in the chat, please. All right, we have quite a few no's in the chat. Do we have any yeses? All right, you're all correct. No, currently operating schools may only apply for expansion grants if they've only been recently approved via a charter amendment to increase enrollment or add grade levels beyond what's in your original charter. So good job. Now we're going to talk about the need-based facilities competitive grants. These grants will be awarded to charter schools with demonstrable unmet facility needs impacting the student learning environment. Charter schools that are currently open and providing instruction to students are eligible to apply. Quick note, our scoring rubric prioritizes the needs that are currently negatively impacting student health and safety first. So here are some examples of projects that would meet the requirements for need-based. Necessary HVAC replacement or repair, electrical enhancement or repair, security renovations or enhancements, removal of hazardous material, assessment of facilities related to student safety and well-being, costs or fees associated with code compliance or inspections, such as like lead in the drinking water, addition or modification of classroom or multi-purpose learning spaces, addition, renovation, or redesign of spaces dedicated to physical activity. Here are some examples of projects that would not meet those requirements. Exterior landscaping, renovations or additions to spaces not utilized for student learning or well-being, such as administrative offices or parking lots, and projects without sufficient evidence supporting proposed costs as reasonable. And again, for more information about accountability, reimbursements, e-plan, please attend the facilities e-plan webinar that Adam will be rescheduling soon. Exciting news, all application materials are now available on the website. So here's the grant cycle. November 1st, which was a couple days ago, is when the application window officially opened. December 2nd is when the application for competitive grants window will close. By January 3rd, competitive grants and PPA will be awarded in e-plan for all schools. Those funding applications are due February 1st. Now, regardless of whether you plan to apply for competitive funds or not, February 1st is a key deadline for all schools. Your funding application must be submitted in e-plan by this deadline, per pupil or competitive. As a reminder, we will schedule a specific e-plan webinar soon to walk schools through navigating the platform to accomplish this expectation. And then by June of 2023, you must have spent all of your per pupil allotment. You may carry over any competitive funds that you were awarded through 2026, but the per pupil allotment should be spent by June 30th of 2023. All right, I'll pause here. A lot of information we've covered thus far. Are there any questions?
Good morning, Serena. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So just a little clarity. So all PPA funds have to be spent by June 2023.
Yes.
They can't be carried over. Am I correct? So
Correct.
PPA cannot be carried over. They need to be spent out. And then if you apply for a competitive grant and receive that competitive grant, you can carry those funds over to 2026.
Correct.
Got it.
Although we will be, oh, go ahead.
I'll say a point of clarification. This is different than last year, and that's because the funds came out so late in last fiscal year. Yeah. So that's why it was it would have been impossible for everyone to spend their PPA last year. So it is possible that schools would have PPA from fiscal year 22 that they need to carry over into this year, and then you'll get additional funds in January that should be spent by the end of this year. So all of your PPA funds,
so all of your PPA,
fiscal year 22 and 23 should be spent by the end of this fiscal year, correct?
Absolutely. Okay.
One more thing to add, although they can, the competitive grant funds can be carried over through 2026, our office plans to very heavily support schools in identifying and spending down those funds as well as quickly as possible. But the grant does allow for a little bit longer of an on-ramp, especially if it's a new construction building project that might be done in phases, something like that. I do have a question. Oh, no problem. I do have a question in the chat. Would a vestibule be counted as student well-being? Yes. In general, I would recommend that you provide strong support as to why that vestibule is a necessary change or addition and how it contributes to student safety. I think we kind of all know in general, but just make sure your application is very specific and explicit about the student safety needs for that vestibule.
And I'll add that if you to avoid sending messages in the chat asking for specific like approvals on items, because it's really hard for us to know for sure until we see the application. So the best advice there is just to really take a look at the chart on page 5 of the application and look at the descriptions, and you would want to show whatever you're asking for meets that description. So for vestibule, for example, if it is supporting school security and student safety, that is listed as an example, and you would need to show that it is an urgent health and safety concern for students and staff, and then categorize it as level 1. So just use that chart to help build your case, as Serena said, to support whatever you're asking for.
Okay. One more quick question that I want to address whole group about when expenses can be spent. Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I know the answer to this one. Your per pupil allotments will hit your e-plan account around January 1st, and all expenses must be between that date, January 1st and June 30th of 2023. Correct, Nate?
It should, yeah, it'll probably be January 3rd, given that the 1st is on a Saturday, and that's the first business day. If we can get them entered sooner, we will try, but just with the holidays, you'll know it's hard to get things through. So plan on your allocations showing up for both competitive if you receive them and your PPA around January 3rd. Your award date in the GAN that you receive your grant award notification will be the earliest that you can spend those funds. And so that's also a big difference from last year's, that whatever the award date is for your funds this year, that is the first date that you can spend the fiscal year 23 funds.
And again, we backdated it last year because of the timing of the grant, but there was not a need to backdate it this year. So that's why reimbursements for funds cannot be backdated past your award date? Great questions. Keep them coming. Nate, Adam, and myself will try to address them in the chat as they come along. I want to push to our application format. If you are planning to apply for competitive funds, there are a couple of differences this year, so I want to make sure we cover that. Applicants shall submit the following information to our office: the application cover page, your signed assurances, your project narrative, your budget narrative, and any additional attachments. Applicants should clearly identify the need for the proposed facility expenditure and how it will drive student outcomes. The packet that we provide will include a budget template. If you are awarded a competitive grant, then you must complete that budget when the requested allocation in ePlan. So that's a difference. We're not requiring you to put your budget in ePlan at the application stage this year. Only once you have been notified that you are receiving an award, you will need to put your budget in ePlan. Now, for your appendices, any relevant supporting documents not already specified, but that you feel are germane to the application request should be uploaded. Examples include construction quotes or proposed architectural fees. We are asking that you please do not attach curriculum, commercial publications, or videos. If you applied last year, note a key change I just mentioned, you'll be provided an application packet template to fill out. This is going to help our reviewers by improving organization, uniformity, and clarity of each applicant. And I'll talk a little bit more about that difference in a bit. So the first part is your application cover page. It's page 1 of the template. The next is your signed assurances. What you need to do is read the assurances, fill out and sign them on page 14. There are no edits allowed to the assurances. And then, as I stated earlier, please note a key change in our project narrative. This year, we have created 2 different application packets. There is a packet for the expansion competitive grant and a separate application packet for the need-based. One of the issues that we noticed last year was there was a pretty consistent confusion on the part of the applicants of which information they needed to provide based on the application type. And we feel that's because we put it all together in one application. So this year, we have separated those 2 applications to make it more clear to you exactly what information you need to share and provide evidence to support based on your application type. This, again, will help our reviewers by improving organization, uniformity, and clarity of each applicant. Budget narrative, as we mentioned, this is the same for both applications. You'll have to provide a narrative for your budget and a timeline, and then an attachment, a budget attachment is provided in attachment B. It does not count towards your page limit. As we stated earlier, please note that all of your grant expenditures must take place after the grant award date, which we anticipate being around January 3rd. And then additional attachments, you'll include any relevant supporting documents requested from the project narrative. You may also include relevant documents that were not specifically requested, but are appropriate for the application. So examples would be construction quotes, architectural fees, things of that nature. Non-examples, as we stated, curriculum, commercial publications, or videos. I strongly encourage you to use the provided scoring rubric to determine which additional attachments you feel would provide.
Okay, so just from now until the 6th. Thank you.
Excuse me. I encourage you to use the provided scoring rubric to determine which additional attachments you feel would provide strong support for your project narrative. That rubric has clear details for the types of evidence that would support the highest scores. And there's an example here you see on the screen of that rubric. We've provided 2 different templates for you, need-based and expansion. Please note the rubrics for scoring are also differentiated based on those 2 application types. Do not make changes or reformat the templates provided. We know you love your logo. We don't need it. We just need you to answer the questions that are provided on the document. It really will help us turn around awards and scoring process much more quickly and equitably. And like I said, consult the rubric in your application when you're drafting your responses to make sure you're maximizing the points possible for your application. And you may not be eligible for the maximum amount of points in each category. That is okay. Provide the strongest application that you can. Not every application or every project is going to score 100% of points available, but it does not mean your project will not get funded. All right, here's our submission information. This year, we're asking that you submit your application for competitive funds as one PDF document to charter.schools@tn.gov. Now, if you have any application questions, you can direct those to me directly at serena.sales@tn.gov before the deadline, and I'm happy to support you with technical, assistance there. I need those applications by 11:59 Central on Friday, December 2nd, 2022. Your application materials will be loaded into ePlan if your award is funded, if your application is funded upon receipt of your allocations in January as part of your ePlan funding application. So we'll deal with ePlan in January for competitive funds. For right now, just send them via PDF and email. Any questions about the application, applicant types, or the application process?
Serena, for those who are awarded the grants, will they receive a username and password to ePlan if they don't already have one once it has been established that they are going to receive the grant?
If the school does not have access to it because they're a new school, then we will create what's called like a dummy account in ePlan so that you can go ahead and submit everything you need, and we'll help you get set up. Any existing school would need to just make sure that they have all of their current rights, and the folks who have access to approve ePlan stuff, they all need to make sure that they're updated. But if you're a new school, we would create an ePlan account for you, correct? And that we can get that done. If you submit an application, we'll likely go ahead and get that started in the event that you need funds awarded.
Thank you.
And honestly, we'll probably get that started if you submit an application regardless, because if you're an approved school, you're going to need to be an ePlan, at some point anyway. So it'll be a good flag for us to support you through that process. We have some questions about, there was a question about each school receiving up to $700,000. So as Nate said in the chat, the grant award is per school. So if you are a CMO that centrally oversees maybe 5 schools, you can apply individually for each school. Just know that the expenditures for each school are locked by that amount. So you can't really pull those resources and spend them for other ways. Like it is still, whatever you're awarded for one school has to be used for that school in particular. It can't be used for a different school. So, and that'll all be based on the budget that you provide. And there's a question about carryover funds. I want to make a clarification from our earlier note. If you have not spent all of your cohort 22 funds and have completed the carryover process, and which is a FER, we call it a FER, it's a final expenditure report, and you've been approved for your funds to carry over into this fiscal year, that will not impact your ability to receive 2023 funds. If you are awarded funds in 2022 and you have not yet completed the carryover process to fiscal year 2023, you will not be able to receive any additional funds. So as long as you've completed your FER, you've turned, everything says fiscal year 23 for you, and you've been checked off in ePlan by Adam, you're good to go.
And yeah, and that was perfect. And there's just one other clarification kind of connected to that, which is so you can continue to spend down your fiscal year 2022 funds as far back as that original grant period. So there was one distinction there. So the last year, the grant period was backdated to July 1, 2021. And so you can carry over your funds into this fiscal year and still go back and submit reimbursements from the previous year. As long as they're within the grant period, we can still process those. That will be different, obviously, for the new round of funding. But if you're trying to get those spent down so you don't have to worry about them before you get your new funds, then yes, you can still submit reimbursements for anything within the grant period, which started on July 1st, 2021 for the fiscal year 2022 facilities grant. It's very confusing. I apologize that we have these two grants that are very similarly named. And a lot of this is just because of how late the grant came out last year. So we will be happy to clarify any questions you have and help you through that process.
And that's another reason why we have changed our terminology to cohort 2023 instead of fiscal year, so that you understand the difference between the allotment you're given and the fiscal year that you're able to spend those funds in each plan. Great question. Now we're going to push forward to the application review process, because I think it's important for everybody to understand how their application is going to be scored, by whom, and in what timeline. So your application will be reviewed by at least 3 individuals. Your scores from those different individuals that review your application will be averaged, and you must score at least 75% of available points to receive grant funds. We anticipate that every single school on this call or in our charter portfolio in the state has outstanding needs, right? So of course we all understand if everybody receives scores of at least 75% of the total available points, we still do not have, unfortunately, the amount of money to award everyone at full capacity. So funds will be awarded to applicants with the highest scores first. So we're going to average them, rank them, and go from there. Funding is not guaranteed for every applicant. Funding is not guaranteed for every high scoring applicant. The higher need projects will be prioritized over funding 100% of requests. So I'll make a distinction here. Your funding, your application is not yes, no. It's not either you will get awarded every single dime that you applied for, or you get a blanket no for anything. We can and often did and will continue to award portions of your project based on their highest need. So you may ask for a full amount and not receive a full amount, but it doesn't mean you're going to receive nothing if we believe that there's a high need and a high score for that need.
That was perfect. I just want to give an example. So if you have a project that is $500,000, and then you say, well, I'm just going to also tag on $200,000 of debt service or mortgage payments so I can request that $700,000 amount, then what we are doing is making sure that we fund first those higher priority projects, and that might just be that $500,000 amount, rather than giving you the full amount and disadvantaging another school who had a priority one project that they really need assistance on. So that's the rationale behind that. So it's better for you to ask for what you need and submit a really good application to justify that, rather than just filling in the full amount and saying, we won't fund those potentially if they're lower level. Now, if we have enough money to go around and you include them, then we will go back and fund every project that we can to the fullest amount. But just know that the rationale for that is we're really trying to spread the opportunity to as many schools as possible.
I think Nate read my slide notes for the next slide. So all schools, to recap, all schools that are in operation in fiscal year 2023 will receive per pupil allocation in E-Plan in January, every school. Schools may apply for additional competitive funds up to $700,000. You may have noticed that the maximum award amount has increased this year. This is to account for the increases in costs that we've just seen across the board, from supplies to real estate. Everything is just more expensive now, and we tried to account for that in how we set this budget up. Last year, we received a few applications where it was very clear to us that more funds than we were able to provide were needed. And we wanted the flexibility to be able to support those types of projects more fully. But being completely transparent, we do not anticipate awarding very many applications at the full 700. We just wanted to acknowledge the possibility where that exists. I'll echo what Nate just stated. We really encourage you to focus on requesting only the amount of funds which you believe are competitive, high need, and that you can strongly support. You are more likely to receive a higher score for a stronger overall application than attempting to request and then justify the maximum funds possible. Just keep in mind things like your mortgage, lease payments, you can use your per pupil allocation for those types of things. And then funds may only be used for expenditures on or after your grant award date. Key notes or key dates, December 2nd, by December 2nd, please email your competitive application saved as one PDF document to charter.schools@tn.gov. By January 3rd, you will receive your awards, both PPA and competitive, uploaded into ePlan. You must submit a funding application in ePlan to actually receive those facilities funds, either PPA or competitive. And then by February 1st is when those funding applications are due. So jot that date down. Everyone needs to know that February 1st date. One more quick note. Even though funds may only be used for expenditures on or after the grant award date, one of the reasons why we're having this webinar now is if you can start go ahead and thinking about, especially for your PPA funds, since you have to spend them by June, what would you spend those funds on? Get that together, gather your quotes, be ready for that so that you can, within that 6-month timeline, make sure that you draw down all of those funds and receive support from our office to do so. All right. In closing, in the chat box, and I would love for everyone to respond, please enter one of the following. You don't have to answer all three, but please answer at least one of these. One, what is one piece of information or insight that you learned today that will help you in completing your fiscal year 23 charter school facilities funds application? Two, what is one action item you have added to your to-do list or prioritize after attending this webinar? And then the third option, if you are part of an organization that has received a facilities grant fund before, what advice can you share with first-time applicants? While you're typing that in the chat box, I'm going to post a link in the chat as well for our, there's a form I would love for each of you to fill out for feedback about this webinar. All right, the link to feedback about this webinar is in the chat. If you could please click that link and submit that form, I would greatly appreciate it. Your insight is very valuable to me and how we can improve the supports that we provide to you, such as this webinar. Oh, that's a great point, a great question. This webinar will be posted to the website. And so it will include the slides you'll be able to see the slides and you'll also be able to hear the audio. So we will be posting this webinar to our website if you need to come back to it, or if you want to share it with someone who was not able to attend today. No promises on when that's going to hit the website, but we will submit it, and we will update our website to share this webinar for sure. Vanita Andrews, I love this action step. If you need my office's support in reviewing and improving your application, please don't hesitate to reach out.
To clarify, though, we won't be able to review your application and give you advice or feedback on how to make it stronger, because we're not able to offer that to all schools. But if you want to check to make sure that everything is completed, we can verify that you have completed the application. And there was also one question I'll just reiterate here about feedback from last year's grant. We also are not able to share the feedback from last year's grant either. But if you have questions about something on your plan and whether or not it's allowable, or what level it would fall under, you can feel free to email those questions to us. But I will say one general note, and one of the reasons why that Serena and I created the template for this year is applicants who followed the structure of the questions one by one and answered them typically did better than applicants who created a grant application that just kind of created a narrative for their facilities funds. And so one of the reasons we did the template was to helpfully provide a really clear way to answer the questions to make sure that everything is being addressed that's in the rubric. So some folks provided us a lot of information that was great, but it just didn't address what was in the rubric, and so they missed points for those things. So the best thing you can do is just to look at the template and then check your work against the rubric.
And we own a little bit of that. We put both applications together in one document, and so we split it up. So as long as you're looking at the right document for what you're trying to apply for, it should be very clear what information is needed to support your grant and what information is not. Okay, my contact information is on the screen. If you do not already have it, please jot it down. My work cell phone number is here on the screen, 629-259-1557. And you can reach out to me directly for technical assistance and clarifying questions between now and the application window closing at serena.sales@tn.gov. Unfortunately, I will not be able to provide any information about your application or support with that after the application window closes. So I recommend that you do two things. Reach out to me in advance of the window closing, and also try to submit your application prior to that deadline. If a component is missing or something like that, and you reach out to make sure you're complete, I can support you before the window closes in that department as well. Nate, did we have anything else to share?
I think some of these were already answered, but just to clarify, so when this recording is done, we submit it for approval, and that takes a couple of days, and then we'll upload it to the website, which will probably take another day or so. So expect it to be on the website early next week, both the recording and the slides. We can go ahead and send out the slides to those who were on this call, so you can have those. But the recording has to go through an approval process before we can post that. And then also, there's no intent to apply. You just submit the application by December 2nd. That was it. I've also recorded all the questions today, so we're going to go ahead and create an FAQ, and we'll share that out as well.
Okay. All right, well, one more plug. If you have not already clicked the link to the form for feedback, I'm going to post it again here. Please take some time to fill out this form to give us feedback. And then I hope you all have a great rest of the day.